Welcome back, everyone. We are here for the fourth and final round of the Riftlab's Clash 4. That's a lot of 4s in a row. Might as well have Jin in there if we wish. But we are set for our 3-0 squads, and this time around, we got some old faithfuls coming in here. And, I mean, Silent Night, one of the biggest things that we got to watch for is the fact that Master Yi is having a little bit of fun in there, and it has gotten a little bit silly overall.
Yeah, exactly right. We were able to see the Auroras come into play here, and with that as well, we are seeing a little bit different, but still with a lot of heavy hitters as well. And so this is going to be an interesting matchup because not only that, we are going to be able to go ahead and see, the Protectors coming in, the Deadblue Predators, but then you also have a lot of reinforcements to try to gain a lot of might to make sure that you hold the battlefields that are in question. And then likewise, on the other side as well, you are going to be seeing DARIUS Hook, which is a very formidable foe against Yi.
Yes, this is the same old love that we, some people hate at the end of the day. Got that hook in there if you wish, but with a little faster ramp up, we get to see a little bit of that push towards those early points. Looking at that, I believe it was 6 victory points before you really get that explosive power. So it's who can hit their power spikes first in this competition.
Yeah, and that's going to be the big part. Now, DARIUS Hook can really hit the ground running, especially if you're able to get the hook out. And likewise, we don't see necessarily any gear removal on the Yi side. And so you have Sabotage, sure, in the side decking. But if you're able to get the hook out on turn 1, especially early on, then that can be very difficult for Yi to try to come in and take the game.
Let's see if they can pull it off. Right now, we are heading into game number 1. Remember, it is Batsu versus Freakz. Freakz over there with the Master Yi. Batsu in the red on the DARIUS. Very, very fitting, of course, for the Noxus side of things. Battlefields have been drawn. One that we have seen that is a staple, at least across the competitive side. It is going to be, I believe, that Trifarian War Camp. But for the Master Yi, it's a little bit different. That star-tipped peak, which we don't see very often, when you hold here, you may channel 1 rune exhausted, so just another way to get those runes out a little bit faster.
Yeah, and that's going to be the big thing here. And I mean, that's going to be the hard part with DARIUS is that, yeah, he was able to go ahead and build up an early board, which can be very helpful when going against Yi. But now you are down on runes. And even still, again, if you recycle too many runes too early on, that can really slow you down. But even still, now we're going to be able to go ahead and get a hook out in this case, and then next turn really start to move things, especially with Trifarian War Camp. And here we go with that already being utilized. So we are going to be able to look at the top 5 cards and pick something that has now 3 or less might to be able to play out to the battlefield.
And I think this is one of the faster starts to a baited hook style that we've seen. We've seen a lot of DARIUS hooks be attempted, but they tend to somehow get baited hook a little bit later. I think the ones that we've seen on stream, at least, have been hit usually like turn, I want to say, 3 or 4. It's been in time, but this time around, it's much faster, and you're amping up as quickly as possible. Of course, with those extra runes in pocket, not only do you get more of your units, but you also deny it away from Freakz. Freakz now has to battle for that piece of the pie that normally you would try and take ASAP to start stacking your own runes.
And this is where you can really, like you said, yeah, hit the ground running on a lot of this and be able to see what you can do. Yi still has a lot of opportunity, though, to go ahead and now maintain a good hold on the battlefield as well. He's going to be going ahead and buffing up his Poro. And not only that, the Yi ability to add 2 might when defending is going to be very difficult. Not only that, but that Poro is one of my favorite Poros because it also has shield +1, meaning 1 more might. So that is 6 that you are going to have to get over as the DARIUS in order to take back this battlefield. And that can be very difficult, where a lot of your units are a lot more of the lower cost units that you have to utilize.
Now, of course, you do have that hidden blade that we talked about before. I believe we actually saw, I think it was Sarcastic, use that to great efficiency last time. But, it's a take on that star tipped, and okay, it is actually going to be that meteor, that star, to just say, hey, we're done with this one, we're going to go ahead and try and take it away. But I don't know if that was enough. At the end of the day, you can see Freakz going, well, we're not too worried about it overall. We're going to take a little bit of time. There it is. Good clear out. Very quick on that one as well, not allowing Freakz to stack up. And you place the DARIUS this time around, bringing a much larger shield to defense, saying, your Poro can hold 1, Batsu can hold like 3.
And that's going to be the big thing too, is when you go ahead and use being able to deal the 3 damage. Well, you get to choose that twice when you use Falling Star. And so in this case, it's like, well, you have a couple of runes as the E player that isn't necessarily used yet. And so he could go ahead and play like the disciplines that you see in hand and use both of my Falling Stars targets on the Poro to make sure that even if you do buff it, you have to use a lot of utility, or you just have to let me be able to take this battlefield. And that's exactly what you saw right there.
And I love this expedited usage of the runes. You recognize that you can hit your peak very, very quickly. You're already at 4 points. If you can maintain up to 5, it's going to push Freakz into a very terrifying position. As we talked about, this is not the Aurora build-out. It's a much faster kind of pacing. You're praying to kind of maneuver around the battlefield as much as possible. We did see the Spectral Matron coming out here for Batsu. Being able to draw that one was nice. When you play me, you may play a unit costing no more than 3 and no more than an extra discard from your trash, ignoring its cost. But out goes the Darius as the Master Yi comes into play. Freakz going ahead and slamming down, taking both battlefields and forcing Batsu to contend.
And no, you're exactly right. That's one of the best plays and best case scenarios that you can see with Batsu having as the Darius player. You want the baited hook to go ahead and sacrifice something so that you have a chance of finding the Spectral Matron, because just like that, you are then able to go ahead and fish out the Vanguard Captain and then immediately populate with 2 more units. So literally for sacrificing 1, you were able to go out and put 4 units out onto the board, which is a big difference maker. Now, again, Freakz is doing a great job at trying to maintain control and get things going here. The Yi that is out in the other battlefield also has ganking, and it looks like we're doing everything that we can to clear that. Yes, we're giving our opponent 2 cards now with Hidden Blade, but even still, I'm at least taking the battlefields. It is now 6-3, and the Yi player is falling a little bit behind.
I mean, this is also very different than what we've seen before. This is very brawl heavy. This is very bloody from these 2 decks. These are 2 decks that actively want to fight, or at least Batsu wants to immediately. We've seen Batsu before, and a lot of these Riftlab clashes has been around for a long time, and using that beta Darius is sending it across the board. A draw of the Dead Bloom Predator, or at least holding one in hand, can be useful for Freakz, but your board is almost completely clear. And now that you're seeing that stack, I don't even know if the Dead Bloom Predator is going to be enough. As we talked about, once you hit that 6 stack, the Draven gets the showboat a little bit too much, and it's almost too difficult to get over that hurdle.
Well, and that is such a great card to be able to go ahead and utilize, and you see that you're reinforcing the Trifarian War Camp. Each unit gets +1 there, so Draven's going up to 10 because of his ability. And again, if you find that on the baited hook, he doesn't do the actual check on his might being added to the victory points that you've been able to accumulate until he hits the battlefield. So you put a baited hook ability on that, you find the Draven, and then you're able to then put him out with a much higher might, and that can be so difficult for Yi to come back from.
A big part about this one, though, is Batsu has basically expended it all, saying, hey, the next few cards that I pull might not be great. I'll have more units, but in spell casings, it's a whole different story. So for Freakz, you have a healthy hand, but no units. This is the absolute polarizing difference of that spectrum of how am I playing this game. Few cards, but multiple units for Batsu, and for Freakz, almost literally 0 units, but all the cards in the world to try and make some sort of magic happen, a tap out of literally everything. And now utilizing one of the cards that we did say was the difference, that Tasty Faithful, to hold on to that star tip peak.
Yep, and that's going to be a big thing, because just like what you see with Thousand Tail Watcher, this too is able to come in accelerated if you go ahead and pay an additional and recycle one of your Calm Runes in this case. And so that's going to be very helpful on trying to get back into this game fast. But again, trying to get over those really big, well-reinforced battlefields are going to be so difficult for Yi players as a whole. And I mean, right now, we're seeing Batsu doing everything right. Freakz is a really skilled player. He's been able to do a lot of tournaments, been able to make some really big statements in each of those respectively. But likewise, so has Batsu, and you're able to see these 2 titans clash together, and who's going to come out on top? Well, right now it's looking like Batsu has a great chance of taking game number 1.
Not only that, in one of our fastest games that we've seen so far, I think you and I have had, I think it was like a 6 to 8 minute game that ended in hilarious fashion last time, but this is a 10 to 12 is still pretty decent pace, in my opinion. As you called, Batsu could be saying, hey, let's get the show on the road. Let's go to game number 2. I want to get my 4-0. And there is a double up of the Dravens. Normally, you can only see this in blind pick, but when you power through with a lead of 3, Batsu has all but secured, as I don't think there's a single thing in hand that Freakz can do to deny a, what is that? Is that a 25 or so in there?
Yeah, I think you're about right with the math. But yeah, that's going to be the hardest part. And now he's even using the baited hook to find another option to potentially reinforce. And so there's a lot to be had here. And that's going to be a pass over to Freakz in this case, going up to 5. And that's going to be the hardest part, is that if you are able to really reinforce a battlefield, especially when you're a little bit ahead in the points scored, you make it so difficult for Yi players as a whole to really come back in this game. Yes, we have defies. We have things that can go ahead and add might to our units. But is that going to be enough? Especially when you have 2 Dravens out that get buffed up every single turn. And now, I mean, with 7 points added, 10 each, and then Trifarian Warcamp on top of that, that is so difficult to come back from.
Yeah, that has been wild work so far. And there is even a further fun fact. Both Freakz and Batsu have been participating in the Riftlab Clash since the 2nd. And they, I'm sure, are going to be staples throughout if they continue to show up here and continuously rank high in the 3-1-4-0 categories. That's a draw that I really don't think there's a singular other draw that you could have that Freakz is like, this is going to be great. You are going to try and toss out here. I think that was a little bit shy on there. Discipline just trying to give +2, but it's like, what are you gonna do here? Well done to Batsu, stacking heavily. The Dravens call happy. You're gonna force out 1? Where are we playing this? I'm kind of curious here.
Well, and you're almost hoping maybe to try to find those answers needed. You can maybe play a Dead Bloom Predator out, but at the same time, it's like you're trying to find those lines, and when you sometimes change the battlefield a little bit, you're able to maybe see potential lines that you might not have seen before. You're seeing him dig a little bit deeper with finding his center, but right now it looks like he's finding anything but his center. He needs to find the answer, and there is none, as we go ahead and see Freakz scoop and give game 1 win to Batsu.
10.5 minutes, and by about minute 8, we kind of understood what was being played. And quite honestly, I'm looking at Batsu's sideboard. I don't see anything you really need to change. You drew well, and even if you don't, you have ways to get in. For Freakz, though, where do you go from here? Even Sabotage doesn't seem to be perfect. I mean, you could try and run the Sabotages to try and take away that baited hook, but I mean, it's difficult.
Yeah, that's going to be the hard part. And again, if you're going second as Freakz in this case, and you might not be, but Sabotage might be good just to try to dig a little. But I mean, and even getting the hand knowledge, that's going to be one of the biggest things I talk about on why I love Sabotage so much, is because even if you don't have that target, knowing what's in your opponent's hand and being able to play forward, especially as a Yi player, can pay dividends. But again, maybe Call of the Week can be a very good option here. You're running 2 in this case, and so being able to go ahead and add that into the deck, especially when as Yi players, you don't normally have like a big board like what you see in DARIUS, and so that can be a pretty big difference maker there. And the strategy, again, the big win con here for any Yi or for any DARIUS or Victor player as a whole. So great stuff to see here, and I'm curious to see what we're going to have in game number 2.
Yeah, no one wants any Void Seekers. You know, you can cross that off your your list. And I mean, looking on the other side, I mean, for Freakz, you're starting to recognize that maybe that didn't play out as well for you. Maybe it didn't help. That you were kind of stuck at that threshold of watching those units kind of pour out from the base of Batsu. And you're sitting there going, dang, this hurts. So you got to find a way to ramp up a little bit faster. We can go ahead and swap over to the decks themselves. I want to check out some of the battlefields that we might have for this upcoming fight. Well, no, we won't even get that because it is pure game time. We don't even have to wonder. We get to fully see it's Zon Warrens in the Grove of the God Willow.
Yep, and that's going to be a big key here too. Both players have side decked, and so they have put cards in, they have taken cards out, and we'll see if that pays some dividends here as both players go into their mulligans. Now, likewise, Zon Warrens is a very interesting card because when you conquer here, you discard 1, then draw 1. And so if you have something that might be kind of clunking your hand up, you're able to get rid of it and maybe draw something better. And likewise, on the other side, we also have the Grove of the God Willow, and that's going to be really awesome too, because when you hold here, you draw one. So, I mean, at the same time, that can really benefit the Darius player.
I think either side, you're dealing with a very quick acceleration for Batsu. Batsu is going to enjoy either of these battlefields. It really just depends on where you want to stack a lot of your units and then play it from there. At the current moment, though, for Freakz, you're just trying to draw. You're trying to get some comfortability out there. You send the Poro to hold out on that God Willow and say, okay, start things off strong, build up, find the cards I need. Because I draw the Dead Bloom this early on, I don't know if you fully want that because the battlefield isn't fully cluttered yet, if that makes sense. However, starting things off strong, not allowing Batsu to ramp up to, what was it, 4 or 5 in 2 turns? Yeah, that's a better start than last time.
Yeah, and you're seeing that there's going to be some answers that both players are going to be able to utilize. Having this hand knowledge is so crucial for us to be able to see what might be in the future, but still, Falling Star can be that big card to really change the momentum into Batsu's favor, and that's going to be something to watch out for. This is the second time where we're watching a Yi player, and he's not necessarily finding a lot of his counters, a lot of his charms in this case. We only saw one last game. We haven't seen really any defies whatsoever, and of course in this case it wouldn't stop the Falling Star, but still, that is such great answers to have to help prolong your units in battlefield so that you can get ahead. And unfortunately, Freakz just is not finding that.
No, and not only that, Batsu swinging high and heavy, bringing out that Kaisa immediately and saying, okay, let's go ahead, accelerate the pace of the game. You and I were talking about this in the green room. How quickly can you push this tempo? How quickly can you get on the nerves of the opponent? And I feel like it's already starting. If Freakz isn't able to pull any extra units, this is going to be very, very dangerous. Right now, you're only seeing on 7. You wouldn't want to discard anyways, but 7 is not 8 at this point. I don't like this. I really don't like this Silent Night. I don't like where this is going, as Freakz is somehow angered the TCG gods.
Again, like a lot of game left. You're finding Yi that's able to then come in and immediately move into a battlefield. You're going to be able to discard a card that you just don't really need right now and hopefully be able to replace it with something better. And that is going to be finding the Protector, which can be a big card. So next turn, if you so choose, you can go ahead and play the Protector and buff up Yi to then go ahead and gank into might have been taken in this case. So there's a lot of utilization. Likewise, one thing that I'm worried about here and gotta note is Batsu only has 3 cards in hand, but they're really good cards, and you see that Master Yi is tapped out in runes. So if you go the Falling Star, which is what we're seeing right here, boom, that's going to take out the Yi, and that, again, is going to be slowing down Freakz even more, and the Kais is going to be able to draw 1 when conquering.
That's actually why I was really worried. I was still leaning into Batsu, seeing that, because you knew there was a response coming out here, and as long as that Kaisa is available, it's such... not just in the unit itself with the 4, but the ability to cover that ground. You lost the Master Yi. You lost kind of your safety blanket, and now you're banking on such high-cost units. Yes, you had the first mate, but, I mean, the first mate is only going to be hanging on just to hang around, if you will, if the spell goes off. So at this point, Batsu kind of has free reign, in my opinion. You got a lot of time to kind of set up your battlefield. Yes, next turn, and 8 will come out, but I think there's more than enough range. Of course, Freakz sitting on a 3-3, as we said, a much better play. And now Batsu is in a struggle. Double units in hand, no spells to play with.
Well, and this is the part where I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of the give and take here, the clash of titans, like what we've said, where in this case, it's like, yeah, who's going to be able to draw out better here? I have a Dead Blue Predator that I'll go ahead and play. Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to respond with maybe like a Call of the Week and retake in the battlefields. Cool. Well, and you're going to just see this huge back and forth between both competitors and who's going to be able to win out. It is 3-3 right now in this game too, but the pressure is on Freakz being down a game.
I think you're playing it just as well as you thought. Maybe I didn't give enough respect over. The sacrifice of the Master Yi has made way and paved the opportunities. Another Kaisa in hand. And you're like, dang, I really wish there were some spells, because right now, I think Batsu is kind of just hard relying on unit might alone, which is not going to overcome most of these other pieces. You can see right now both of the champions in hand. And for Darius, you're saying, okay, let's go ahead and get a little extra in there if we can. For the Master Yi, though, it's easy. As long as they defend alone, they get a +2. So every 8 turns into a 10, and every 10 turns into a 12.
And that's going to be the hard part here is you're hoping for one of these big moments to be able to find maybe the Coal of the Weeks, something to just try to get rid of those big units that are taking over the game here. And it's like, can I go ahead and find that? I'm able to build up my battlefield, but what am I going to be able to do with that? And I mean, here we go with at least a Darius. That's going to really make a difference when trying to move in, ready to get the second card. Oh, they might actually be able to with playing the Vanguard Captain with the Darius Legend ability, and that can be very helpful on rebuilding the board, but also even taking this battlefield that is holding them back right now.
They're fighting so hard. They got blood on their hands, but maybe not enough. You got double tokens on the back end for that warrior. I wonder how you're going to force this one. Batsu still trying to decide. A lot of units played for. Taps out 2 more. Goes ahead and swings with the legend themselves. And where did they allot this? I think the idea is to attack that Dead Bloom Predator, but...
Yeah, because the Darius is going to have +2 now. And the biggest thing, the biggest detriment to Yi is when you go ahead and know you have nothing to worry about with what's in hand. And so you see that Yi is completely tapped out. Cool. I just have to deal with what is on the battlefield. That's it. And so, yes, can I get over 10? Yeah, I can. Okay, cool. Well, let's figure that out then. And that's exactly what you're seeing play out right here.
Ooh. And sacking out on that end as well. You go ahead and hang on. You're up 1. But now you got to find a way to draw that Draven, which we've seen before. And guess what? If Freakz wishes, you have a couple extra units that you can power through, take over that God Willow once again. We've seen it before, and you're sitting on 8. But do you wish to expend that heavily?
And this is an interesting thing, too, because you see, for example, that Batsu had a readied 1-mite unit that he could have stuck in the other battlefield, and in so doing, would give him a point at the upkeep. But what I'm thinking that he might be wanting to do here is keep the Kaisa ready to be able to conquer a battlefield and be able to draw an additional card. If he would have sent another unit there, he wouldn't have been able to continue to fill up his hand, which he desperately needs right now, only having 1 card in hand.
You know what? I can agree with that one as well. There's the second Dead Bloom Predator. We kind of expected this play here. You draw a Poro. The poor Poro comes out, and I'm wondering if Batsu was like, bro, really? Or, bro, yes, it's really up to you at that point. But, you know, I like the Poros early. Not always this late in the game. You're kind of hoping for something else. But there's that Kaisa that you were talking about. Go ahead and bring him out all the way over to Zaan's Warrens. Gather up another card, and it's another Poro. Man, that... All right, let's see what you draw. It's another! Bring all the Poros out!
No. You get a Poro. You get a Poro.
That is the worst draw I think I've seen in a while. Like, we know he wasn't hunting for Poros.
Yeah, but I mean, on the plus side, you still have a lot of utilization, again, that you might be able to do.
True.
But, I mean, this can just really set you back. I mean...
Yeah.
It just
that
really hurts,
3,
but I mean, you're able to build up your board. Yeah, and it's like, well, they're 3, cute and snuggly, but that's the last thing you need right now.
We were talking about, what was it, like
Batsu.
we were talking about 1 to 10 chances, and that was like a 0.5 to something.
Yep.
Like 3 Poros in a row, man.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Batsu defying the odds in the worst way, at least, but still.
Yeah. On the other side, we take a look at Freakz. We were mentioning Freakz, hey, keeping up with the pacing. Now 6 and 6, very nicely done. And at this point, you know Batsu is kind of gassed out here. You have everything to play for. You can tap, you can play, you could also try and run it out, but the main thing is taking care of some of these extra creatures and taking over that board. I don't think it'd be bad to go ahead and sack. Yes, you are keeping yourself at 8 runes, but just hammering down an extra dragon in there and getting that protector in play might be able to stifle and steal this game away. We just crested that 10-minute mark. It's a turn of 2. And you're stacking up on top of the God Willow instead of aiming to clear. You're saying, I'll match pace, go 7 to 7.
Yeah, and that's going to be the hard part because you don't necessarily have units with ganking, so you're going to go ahead and get the Dead Blue Predator out, then play your
Oh.
first mate to go ahead and ready up that unit. Great play right there from Freakz. Being able to take the other battlefield, get rid of a card, and draw a card. And this is looking scary right now. It is 7-6, and unless there is some kind of win con that could potentially be top decked, we've seen it before, but unless Batsu is able to do so, we are going to be seeing game number 3.
I mean, that's the Draven, but just like we saw the Aurora last time, it feels a little bit too late. I think you can take one of the battlefields, but it's not enough to catch up, right? You're gonna try and lay it out though. There's a 3-1-2-2. If you were to play Draven here, you could potentially clear Godwillow, but you gotta know there's extra spells in the back end for Freakz to kind of play with, no?
Yeah, and that's the thing though. That's the big part. It's like, okay, I see that my opponent has 7 cards in hand, and they currently have 3 runes that are ready. What could they potentially use? I'm going to go ahead and bring in my readied Kaisa, send everything over to the other battlefield, hope I'm able to find an answer. If he's able to even draw, like, for example, a Darius, potentially, then he can use the Darius Legend ability to go ahead and play out the second card, ready Darius up with 7, and potentially take the other battlefield. So, I mean, but again, you are relying on that top deck pretty heavily.
I think at this point, you're glad you can rely on anything, right? Like, you're just like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm glad to actually have an option here, but we see the point count up. There it is, the 11 that we were talking about. This is going to be the difficult part for Freakz to actually chew through. 4 on the other side, manageable, but again, as you said, you want that draw. So, are you going to play it? Batsu trying to see if there's another answer or another option. You know you want to try and bring these cards out to play, but is it going to be enough? Time is not on your side, Batsu. You know this is kind of like the last hoorah. If you're not able to clear, it's going to be damaging.
Yeah, that's going to be the difficult part. And so, you know, in this case, it's like, do you just go ahead and you take Grove of the Godwillow? You want to almost a little bit overextend in that case to try to get that, because it's like, okay, so they have a lot of cards that go ahead and add 2 might. You know, they have Unguard, they have, you know, Discipline and things of that nature. And so it's like, okay, if I can anticipate that, that's going to be 8 might after the Yi ability as well. So let's go ahead and send in, but even then they can go ahead and deal damage to the Kaisa, so that the ability of taking the battlefield won't be able to be activated by Kaisa's ability. So, yeah, this might as well just be a GG, I think, at this point.
Hurts to say. Listen, you can try and swing it as best you can, but for Batsu, maybe just look at game 3. You didn't get that baited hook. You didn't get to play your game of draw, draw, draw until you get the units that you like. Or maybe we can see some magic happen. Either way, this is the 4th round of the day. Hopefully y'all are enjoying the Riftlab. Let's go ahead and see it. 3-3-3-9 puts you at almost 13. If you wish to play it. I think he's trying to draw exactly 11. Is that what I'm seeing here? He's trying to mess with some of the units. There we go. 2-3-3. That puts you at 8. Puts you at 12. Just one over to maintain one of the units. Is there going to be a response from Freakz here?
And that's going to be the hard part, too, because if there is any response and the Dead Bloom Predator is able to live, then you are going to be finding yourself a Dead Predator and you with nothing to show on your side for the following turn. And so this is a big risk here. And there we go.
Good little catch. Good little idea. And you called it out. You knew exactly what was going to go down. Batsu took a gamble, said, please don't actually have something in there. It is going to be a mix and match at the end of the day. GG's. Game number 2 is done. With that being said, they're headed in. Very nice job. Of course, Batsu wasn't swinging with the baited hook, but Freakz took that in stride.
Well, and here's the thing, too, and this is something to consider as well. Even without a baited hook, you were still able to see Darius being at 6-8 in this case. Still a very close game with a lot of great answers. Just ended up not being able to maintain that card draw. The baited hook, in a lot of ways, makes up for that lack of card draw that Darius has because of how well it can utilize building up your board state. We are going into game 3. Both competitors are 1-1, and the side deck be absolutely crucial here. Do you change anything out? Do you keep it the same? Time will tell.
You know, I'm sitting there actually going, yes, I'd actually like to see some change outs here, but for the players, they say no. All we need to change is the battlefields. We've got the Arena's Greatest pushing us up one already, and Dreaming Tree to come out here. So for the start, it's a little bit of change, and there's Grand Stratagem. So an early start for Batsu saying, I got some great control cards in the mid, but I don't need it right now. So I'm going to go ahead and change out. We didn't really get to see what Freakz dropped in the recycle, but draws a Dead Bloom as well as a Clockwork. So maybe not so great in the management titles, but it's enough to start.
And that's going to be the big thing too, and you see the Darius player opting to go first here, and that is why it's going to be so crucial. You're wanting to hit the ground running. You're wanting to get the board presence. You know enough about your opponent's decks at this point that you know what they're going to be able to throw out and utilize. And so, especially with the battlefield now speeding up the game, it's like, okay, here we go. I got to start making sure that I can not only gain momentum, but carry it throughout this game. You see, though, that Batsu was able to find the baited hook, and that can be a really big change.
100%. I know that you said there are multiple ways to win, but Batsu, I'm sure, is breathing a very heavy sigh of relief, because not only do you have that baited hook, but you also have the stratagem to buff up behind it. So in case Freakz sets a nasty mid-game kind of defensive posture, it won't matter. At the end of the day, it feels like already stacking. What is that? I believe that's 7, 8 to start here. 2, 4, 6. Yeah, 8 on start here. So Freakz already losing out on the Dreaming Tree, which really only has the main effect for these battlefields between the two of them.
Yeah, but the biggest thing is in hand is going to be Primal Strength, and that can be an absolute devastating blow right there. There's only one that he's running in the deck, and he finds it.
That's huge right there as well. So an easy clear on the other side if you ask. Of course, they're waiting. They're saying, hey, how far does this go? Yep, bye-bye token, bye-bye anything else. You just called it out. Freakz says, crisis number 1 averted. A well-timed one, too, as Freakz is able to keep pace. Remember, they've done it before.
And that's going to be the hard part, too. Yes, you go ahead and take a look at Freakz. He doesn't necessarily have the rune count that you're wanting to have here, but at the same time, you just took care of your opponent's board. They used all of that utility, and in one swoop, Aporo came in, and he was on the roids and was able to hit extremely hard and just devastate everything you had built up. And so it's like, yes, I have the Kaisa that can come in readied and whatnot. I'll be able to put it in the other battlefield, draw a card off of that. But still, that is a lot of momentum lost for Batsu.
I love the way that you said that, Poro, mainly because we saw the Poro quite literally devastate Batsu earlier. And it's just like, all right, cool. You know, a good Poro and a bad Poro. This is how you utilize it. 100% agree, though. The one Poro swinging for the fences pretty much ate all the Poro snacks and sat down very heavily. Batsu, though, being able to draw out that Kaisa. God, I almost said Darius or Darius. I don't know why. But the baited hook comes out to play as well. And now we get to see that build up, that ramp up to excellence. Unless Dreaming Tree is able to capture 2, set down some units, and be able to start claiming more points.
And here's going to be the interesting part, and what I really like is Freakz has 2 Hourglass in hand, and so if he's able to go ahead and start building up his battlefield, he very well could just go ahead and, you know, try to get things moving here if he so chooses. But I mean, right there, great play, being able to play first mate, going in and not only bringing back your Poro where he's not ready, but then sending him into the other battlefield to gain 2 very quick points. That could be the difference maker here on locking down this game 3 win.
We talked about it, right? That's the immediate call that you make. Freakz is saying, okay, I got to push before the baited hook really swings heavily. And next turn, you can even set up those hourglasses. You can start prepping that if you wish. And on the flip, Batsu, yet again, drawing that vein. We mentioned before that the vein can be a huge swing piece in the early game, but where do you actually pressure? You saw the stratagem in the back pocket as well, but that's going to have to wait till next turn.
And so the vein, though, is still going to be a great thing. That is going to be Assault, if I remember correctly, Assault 2, or Assault 3. So that is going to to be 5 against 4. And again, the Yi is completely tapped out of runes.
Oh, that feels good right there, though. Having a cleave, what feels like one of the first spells that you've seen in a while, enough to devastate if you need, especially to clear the other battlefield. Batsu is starting to gain that steam back, and there it is, like you were talking about, having that Assault 3 available if you wish. Also utilizing that ready tactic to kind of punch through. Batsu starting to gain momentum back here in the game number 3 and already has a very nice base setup just behind. And now the ball is in Freakz court. Yes, you're up 2 points, but that's going to be closed within very quickly.
Yep, and that's going to be the interesting part. Cleave is going to be absolutely paramount here, and especially if you can even go ahead and use that on the Vayne, you might be able to move in. But it looks like a Darius is going to be coming out in this case just in time. He's going to count himself also as the second card, swinging in for 7 against 4. And again, you know, especially with that moving right in, you're like, okay, I know now my opponent, you know, might not have a lot of answers here, especially with only 1 rune. Could have played an Unguard, but with how quick that reaction might have been, I mean, even so, the Darius being at 7, that is just so difficult for a Poro to try to get over.
For many units as well, not just Poros, we want to point that out. It's not because the Poro's weak or anything. Anyone would have had trouble with the Darius that is this far pronounced, and you're pretty dang happy about it. We talked about these board clears, and we talked about how much of these decks we like to fight. We saw it back in game number 1 where it was just trade upon trade upon trade, and we're seeing it here again in game number 3 where it's trade upon trade, and it's not, I want to say, a massive battle. It is almost these 1v1s and 2v2s. We're seeing yet another one where the first mate takes out the Vayne being utilized for a singular strike, but the build up here that we mentioned before as Dreaming Tree bites back in such a hefty way with the clear of 2 champions and says goodbye. What else you got?
And that's going to be the hard part here. Now, of course, luckily we do have the Cleave that is going to be able to take a battlefield. Yi is tapped out again, so just like that, Kais is going to be at 7. And so that is going to be 5 to 7 at that point, and that's going to draw a much needed card right here. Is it going to be a Poro? Nope, it's going to be a Kaisa. That's going to be a great answer to try to get things moving. But still, that 6 might unit that's going to be boosted to 8 with Master Yi is going to be very difficult to try to get over.
And now it's a test. How far are you going to push?
Ooh,
nice star to hang on to as well. Feels good. Feels good. Completely well, almost completely. I didn't see that top red rune. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to you up there. I didn't look high enough, but it's held on to Tasty Fey Folk, though. For those that might not see that card as much, once it dies, it gives a very nice buff over to those, taking and channeling 2 runes exhausted and then drawing 1, a massive setup if you can, and also difficult to get over, but there it is. Tap off, star is gone. Let's see what Freakz is able to draw.
And this is going to be a very big difference maker. Those 2 runes can make a giant difference, especially with something like Deadblue Predator in hand. That can move up to 7 in this case. Now, we still also have 5 at the ready, which means that Kaisa can come in readied as well and take over the other battlefield and add another card in hand. And Deadbloom Predator in this case would only be able to take 1 of the battlefields. And so this is going to be a very interesting back and forth that we might see. And if there is not necessarily an answer that Freakz might be able to find, you know, this could be it. But Darius is on the knife's edge. Any little misplay, any misdraw even on the top of your deck could spell trouble for you when it comes to actually securing this game 3 win.
Time is being told here. Kinda just chilling. Another player making a move. Both hands on the trigger. You can almost see it there. The tension. The waiting. There we go. Oh, he moved first. He moved first. All right. We're good. I think they were very heavily just thinking about what they wanted to do.
Yeah. I hit the refresh. I hit the refresh
I got
just
so
in
scared.
case.
I got so scared. I was like, yo, the pointers haven't moved at all for the last, 30 seconds. Please, no. All right, we're good, though. So,
I'm pretty sure Jacob watched me reconnect and was just like, yeah, no, guys, we're still alive. We're good.
Yeah, we're good. But now we get to see that play out immediately. We get to see the Kaisa dropped out, baited hook utilized. What do you draw? Drawing off the side of the page. Let's see what's placed back on. Anything good?
Yeah, and that's going to be the hard part here, too. And it's like, I mean, probably just was really thinking about, do I go with the Kaisa or do I go with the baited hook? And it looks like in this case, let's take the risk of the baited hook. Let's go ahead and dig in and see what we can find. And finding the card that you need to be able to rebuild your board, especially when you're trying to go ahead and get that grand stratagem right there. That could be a difference maker for that win con.
Welcome to the playing field, Matron. We talked about it before. This is almost the exact same setup that we saw in game number 1, where we saw Batsu basically rule the entirety of the battlefields. Only difference this time is you're actually playing catch up by 1. Freakz has a singular chance to kind of bounce back here if given the opportunity. I wonder what they're going to be able to play. They do have 2 hourglasses, but I don't know if that's going to be enough with the swarm of units that Batsu has basically pulled out of thin air.
Well, and that's going to be the big thing here, too. Now, we see the Kaisa coming in instead at the ready, going to be taking the other battlefield. I almost was wondering, especially as this game was going, of keeping the battlefields open, because if my opponent has a Dead Bloom Predator, he can play that to an occupied battlefield. And if I don't put a unit there, it can really slow down. Because I know if they play the Master Yi instead of the Dead Bloom Predator, I can still just Grand Stratagem, and then, you know, they might not necessarily be able to take both battlefields. And so, again, though, that's why I love the juggling act that card games present in problem solving. There's so many different lines that you can take. And just that one little difference of choice can be the difference between securing a win and getting a devastating loss.
All right. Well, a sacrifice has to be made here. Out comes the Dead Bloom. Knocked away the Kaisa. This is, I feel, the only move you could have made. Freakz is like, I had to do it. I had to do it. Laying down one of the hourglasses. Also understood. Up to 7. Full spin over. Batsu gets the hidden blade as well. Nice one.
The hidden blade might be just in time, but still at the same time, it's like if you go ahead and activate the hourglass, then this is tough. But I mean, still, you know, you see that Batsu is at 6, and so if he just even goes ahead, and I'm sure he's just running through what are the cards that can be hidden in my opponent's deck. If that gets revealed, what does that necessarily mean? He has the utility, he has the 6 runes to be able to get the Grand Stratagem, but I'm sure he's just making that final calculation of what this could mean on getting ahead and securing the win here.
Yeah, I think Batsu kind of has it here, but again, I'm still kind of watching. There it is, that stratagem that we were mentioning. Full tap out. Send it as far as you can. Remember, for a Grand Stratagem, it's the end card. Basically, it is the finale at the end of any show. Give friendly units +5 this turn, amping you up by 15 total across the entirety of the board. And if you wish, sectioning out 2 different areas is going to be a 2-1 placement. It's up to 10, of course, on that Dead Bloom. But you're able to knock away and push for a little extra. So who do you place on that other side? It's going to be a little bit of a question mark. Matron in hand. You send 1. On guard is going to be used as well.
Yeah, well, and they have 3 runes, though, so they could go with the Discipline and with the Unguard to go ahead and buff by 4. So you got to be so careful about that. And then even, this is the big thing that it all lies on. If I can take this battlefield, then it'll work out, but that's going to be +4 in that case, even with the Master Yi ability as well, so a +6 in total of the might that you didn't necessarily see before. So what's going to happen here?
A +4 lends it up, and it's a good save on the back end, but it's still battlefields taken. And Batsu able to force away a possible loss, and that's going to be 8. It is completed. At the end of the day, you can see the victory hand swirling around. No, I wouldn't put it that way, but it is good to have. It is going to be GG, though. Game number 3 going the way of Batsu.
Well, and that's going to be the thing. Does baited hook really make that big of a difference? And so far, it's looking like it very well does. The fact of the matter is that little bit extra of a momentum shift. He went ahead and chose to sacrifice the Kaisa, dig a little deeper, and find the cards that he needs to find. And that ended up paying the final dividends he needed for the Grand Stratagem to really pay off at taking a very difficult battlefield to secure that Game 3 win.
I highly appreciate the fact that we did get to go ahead and see Batsu swing, but we also had to give credit over on the other side. Freakz was able to hold on for dear life. We talked about the Master Yi kind of being a Hail Mary at the end of the day. We saw the one with the Aurora before, and it was very, very close to excellence, except it never got off the ground. This is a much more stable Master Yi build. It might not be that number one, but it was close enough, and if my speculations are correct, we hope to see even more of Freakz in the future. You know, listen, if I had my glasses on, I'd be able to do a little bit of work, but I don't right now. Silent Night, it's been a treat and a half. My friend, my good co-caster and companion here on the desk, what do we think of the games here today?
I mean, it's just been so cool to be able to see just how different dynamics each deck can have. You're seeing different versions of Yi, you know, different versions of what you might see with Misfortune. Aurora's been making a comeback. This meta still has a lot to be defined here. And I mean, we get ever closer to this game being released for English and worldwide come October 31st. It is still wide open on where this meta can be. And I am so excited to see what is in store as we continue to play these Riftlab clashes.
It's been a treat and a half, and thank you so much for tuning in to all our competitors, our 91 competitors, by the way, that signed up here today. We thank you all for joining in for the 4 amazing rounds, and hopefully we get even more in the future. Now, keep in mind, to all the viewers tuning in, you can also join in. Please go ahead, reach out on socials, reach out to the players, join the Discords that are forming every single day, and get in on the action, and maybe you too can be here on the desk being casted by the great and wonderful 4 that have been here on the day. We had Mostout, we had Counterfeit, Silent Night, and of course myself, and then, of course, Truix running the entire prod, building everything from the ground up and giving us our wonderful view. We all here in production, thank you so much for tuning in to the Riftlab Clash number 4, and we'll see you all next time.